In an act of open defiance, Bostonians dumped more than 92,000 pounds of tea into the Boston Harbor. But the tea was never really the point. Years earlier, Parliament had imposed the Townshend duties on the colonies. The duties were supposed to raise revenue and reinforce Parliament's authority. Instead, they created a crisis. Colonists answered with boycotts. British merchants felt the losses and lobbied Parliament to change course. In 1770, Parliament repealed most of the Townshend duties. But it kept one. The duty on tea remained. That mattered because the argument was never just about the price of a cup of tea. Many colonists believed Parliament had no right to tax them when they elected no representatives to Parliament. To accept the duty was, in their view, to accept the principle behind it. Then, on May 10, 1773, Parliament passed the Tea Act. The Tea Act did not create a new tea tax. It kept the existing duty, but it gave the struggling East India Company a major commercial advantage. The company could export tea more directly and recover some British duties, allowing it to sell tea more cheaply in the colonies. That might sound like a bargain, but to colonial merchants, and to men who had already been resisting the tea duty, it looked like a trap. Cheaper company tea could undercut local trade, and the colonists bought it. Parliament could say they had accepted its power to tax them. 6 months later, the first ship arrived in Boston. The Dartmouth entered the harbor on November 28th, carrying East India Company tea. The Eleanor arrived on December 2nd. The Beaver arrived on December 15th. These were colonial vessels carrying British East India Company cargo. Across the colonies, opponents had found ways to reject their tea and send it back. But Boston became a deadlock. On December 16th, Samuel Adams helped lead a mass meeting at Old South Meeting House. The crowd directed Francis Roch, the owner of the Dartmouth, to seek permission to leave Boston without unloading the tea. Roch tried. Customs officials would not clear the ship. Governor Thomas Hutchinson would not grant the pass needed for it to leave. Hutchinson believed he was enforcing imperial law. The Bostonians at Old South believed Parliament was forcing them to choose between their own rights and compliance with a tax they had rejected. The legal exit had closed. That night, a group of Bostonians went to Griffin's Wharf. Some used indigenous-inspired disguise and face coloring to conceal their identities. They boarded the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver. Then they broke open the tea chests and emptied the tea into the Boston Harbor. About 340 chests were destroyed, more than 92,000 pounds of tea. This was not a battle. No sailors were harmed, the ships were not burned, and a contemporary account says the other property was not damaged. But it was not harmless either. This was a deliberate destruction of valuable East India Company property. It was a carefully targeted act of resistance against Parliament's claimed right to tax the colonies, and against the special advantage where Parliament had given the company. The message was clear. Parliament had already declared, in the Declaratory Act of 1766, that it had authority to bind the colonies in all cases whatsoever. Boston had now openly challenged that claim. Britain answered hard. Parliament passed the Boston Port Act. On June 1st, 1774, Boston Harbor was closed. The port would not reopen until the East India Company had been compensated for the tea, and the Crown was satisfied that order had been restored. It was one of the coercive acts, known in the colonies as the Intolerable Acts. Britain expected to isolate Boston. Instead, it helped unite the colonies. From September to October 1774, 12 colonies sent delegates to the First Continental Congress. Georgia was absent, but the message was still unmistakable. Massachusetts would not stand alone. Parliament had tried to make company tea cheap enough to sell and preserve its authority at the same time. Instead, the Tea Act exposed the deeper issue. The colonists were not fighting over the cost of tea. They were fighting over whether free people could be taxed by a government they did not elect. And after Boston Harbor turned brown with tea, the road toward American independence grew shorter.